Hello, blue boys and girls in the J Blue community. This is yours truly, J Blue 68, delivering some more media news as it has been given to me, or as I have read recently, I should say. In the world of comic books, my favorite subject, as that I'm sure that it is yours. Comic books and movies, comic books and television. And whenever I talk about comic book movies, I always include the comic book. And of course, you see in front of you is the New Mutants. And before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to all my subscribers. Please continue to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Tap that bell so you can get notifications like this, and they can drop into your feed immediately. All right. I hope everyone has had a fine day. Well, let's get into this news. I read this over the weekend. I meant to report it, actually do this video yesterday, but I was very tired. Long work day. This news comes from Dark Horizons, and I actually seen a report that came across my YouTube feed from Collider about Disney being pissed with 20th Century Fox over this. That is, of course, the New Mutants. 20th Century Fox, of course, as you know, was bought out by Disney, and one of the reasons being is because Marvel, also owned by Disney, wanted to get their hands officially back on one of their very popular properties, and that being the X-Men. The X-Men has been under the wing and owned by 20th Century Fox for the last 15 years plus, close to 20 years. And we've enjoyed most of the films that they've done, but some of them were good, I should say, and others were not so. But for the most part, the X-Men films under 20th Century Fox were not told in proper comic book fashion to satisfy most comic book fans. Of course, we loved Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and a couple of other actors and actresses who played in the movie, including Jennifer Lawrence, the lovely Jennifer Lawrence, and Michael Fassbender, to name a few. I give much credit to their acting abilities. However, the stories have not been satisfactory to fans. Bryan Singer was one of the first directors, or the first director of the very first few X-Men films. And the last two entries, which have been Dark Phoenix and before that was Apocalypse, failed to satisfy comic book fans and even general audiences and the production companies themselves, and that includes Fox. Now, what has happened is Disney has bought out 20th Century Fox last slate of films, and that included Dark Phoenix, which again performed weakly at the box office. And Disney's pissed about that. I think they've lost somewhere in the range of about close to $400 million on that film. I'm going to read exactly what it says from Dark Horizons, and then I'll ad-lib a little bit. But what has been expected for months was made official in an investment call this past week that Disney has essentially gutted 20th Century Fox's film development slate. The studio has several hundred products. The 20th Century Fox has several hundred projects in development, and while many would have never come to fruition, there were plenty that could have. That's no longer the case. As a handful of films that were under production did survive, and that includes James Cameron's Avatar sequels and a film called Ford versus Ferrari. The rest of the films were scrapped, according to Disney CEO Bob Iger. The reason given was the disappointing box office numbers of some of the final Fox films that Disney inherited after the takeover, most notably Dark Phoenix, as I mentioned, though the justification seems dubious. In any case, a Reddit user has opted to compile a list of nearly 300 films that were in development at Fox that no longer are. A short list of these films included A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen reboot, The Boogeyman, which was a Stephen King adaptation, Die Hard prequel, a Die Hard prequel called McClane, starring Bruce Willis. I have no idea why the hell they even thought to even do that film. A Flash Gordon reboot, which would have been interesting. Assassin's Creed sequel, which would have starred Michael Fassbender, who starred as Magneto in the X-Men films that I mentioned, and a host of other films. Um, those films have all been slashed. They are not going to be made. Disney is not going to fund those movies because, again, they're not very happy with how 20th Century Fox has performed over the last few films, specifically with Dark Phoenix, as I mentioned. The only films that seem to have survived included two Kingsman films, the 4 Avatar sequels by the crybaby James Cameron, and I call him that because of how he rants about comic book movies. Anyway, the Terminator Dark Fate film has survived, and a new rebooted film from the Planet of the Apes franchise under Matt Reeves has survived, and the Fox Marvel's The New Mutants. Now, The New Mutants was actually supposed to come out about 4 years ago, and I remember seeing the trailer. It's supposed to be a horror movie, which I don't know why they made it into a horror movie, but that's what they wanted it to be. But a recent report from Collider and from Dark Horizons that I just indicated have collaborated news that Disney has seen a screening of the film. They're not impressed, and again, they're pissed at 20th Century Fox for the underperformance of Dark Phoenix. I don't know why 20th Century Fox even wants to continue doing anything related to mutants or the X-Men. They've had their run. They had close to 20 good years. They made a lot of money off the X-Men films, even the crappy ones. I was about to say something else, but I try not to use profanity on my YouTube channel. Even the crappy ones, and the worst one was Dark Phoenix. I'm not Dark Phoenix, was Apocalypse. That was a god-awful movie. But I'm sorry, I had to pause there because there's something I had to get. But yeah, so they're not very happy with Disney's last slate of films. And as far as I'm concerned, as a fan, comic book fan, and a moviegoer, 20th Century Fox should just let this property go. Now, if you don't know who the New Mutants are, here's a comic book written off these particular characters. This is written by Chris Claremont. Came out in the 90s, early 90s, I believe. Chris Claremont, but it consists of a host of characters, and they're a very diverse host of characters, I might say. Sam Guthrie, who's known as Cannonball. Roberto DaCosta, who's known as Sunspot. Daniel Moonstar, who's and he's a Brazilian guy, by the way. Daniel Moonstar, who's Native American, and she's known as Psyche, and she has powers much like Jean Grey, but not on the same level, of course. Ronnie Sinclair, known as Wolfsbane. Cheyenne Coximan, known as Karma. And I'm going to open up this front page here where you can see them kind of depowered, or they're not in their mutant state. And again, you can see how diverse this group of people are. And here's, I'm not sure if she's African American, but her name is Stevie Hunter. But she's the appointed teacher of this new group of X-Men by Professor X. And the reason why they're called the New Mutants, because the original X-Men somehow mysteriously have disappeared. And Charles Xavier has formed a New Mutants, consisting of the group I just named. And they go on their mission to try to find the X-Men. Now, there's a lot going on in this story that actually has ties to a new story that just came out, and that the House of X and Powers of X. But I won't get into that right now. When I do my review eventually of House of X, I actually am going to include this book, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, so very diverse group there. But again, I'm hoping that 20th Century Fox won't release this film. It's still on their slate of films to be released at some point in time, I believe next year. We'll see how it goes. But again, 20th Century Fox just does not want. They're very stingy. It's very stingy and I don't know, kind of greedy. I mean, I hate to say that about them, but they are. It's like they just don't want to give up, a project that they made money off of and recently, have done just a sloppy job on. Anyway, let's move on. There's more news I got to report here in the comic book world. So, I also read on Google News that Marvel has a host of new TV shows coming out, and I indicated in my video the other day that they're working strongly on a female lead TV show, and I showed those comic books of potential characters. Well, this isn't potential right here. This is actually factual. They're currently there aren't a lot of details about what they're going to be doing, but they're going to be doing the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, and Robbie Reyes actually appeared in Agents of Shield in season 6, I believe it was. He appeared in season 6. It was a very good. It was a very good season 4, Agents of Shield, and they're into season. No, I'm sorry, not within season 6. It was season 5, but they're currently working on this particular TV show as well as another TV show based off of another Marvel character called Hellstrom. Now, to my understanding, these forthcoming shows will actually be a horror series under the banner referred to as Adventures into Fear, a name shared by Marvel Comics titles back in the 1970s. And unfortunately, I don't have any of those books in front of me right now. I do have some of the Adventures into Fear comic books. I just couldn't find them as I was trying to do this video really quick for you all. But yes, so the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider character will be coming to Hulu, I believe, as well as Hellstrom. They're also working on some animated shows, Hit Monkey, Tigra, and Dazzler. And I showed Tigra in my video compilation the other day of female superheroes. But yeah, Tigra and Dazzler. Dazzler, of course, who's from the X-Men, and a MODOK TV series. That will be very interesting to see, along with a host of other shows. So this is one of their other shows that they're working on based off of this comic book and this particular Ghost Rider character. The next show that I read that they'll be doing is based off of Man-Thing. And this is Man-Thing, which was written by R.L. Stine, who is a horror comic writer, or excuse me, a horror book novelist, writer. And I think he's also involved in cinema in some capacity. But this book came out about a year or so ago. This is book number 1 of Man-Thing, and there will be a TV show based off of this character. And I guess it will be good for them to do it down, since unfortunately, what's the DC Comics show Swamp Thing was canceled. And to my understanding, the show is really good. But I guess this is the perfect time to put out this character, since Swamp Thing has been canceled and will not be continued. Very unfortunate for DC, as in a long string of very unfortunate things with DC TV shows and movies. But anyway, so this is one of the shows they'll be working on, and this will also be under their Adventures into Fear line. Nice cover here, too, of Man-Thing. Move my hands out of the way there. You see, I got this tape here as it's holding the Mylar together. Yeah, so Man-Thing is also another potential show, or not potential show, a show that will be produced and broadcast on the Hulu network. And you know that they already have 2 shows on the Hulu network, which are, or one anyway, which is The Runaways. And they also have, Cloak and Dagger. But Cloak and Dagger, I think, is on a different network. Now, this is a potential show that will eventually probably make its way onto Hulu as well. A lot of talk about Moon Knight. This is a classic cover here from the Marvel Comics group. This came out in 1980. Wow, during the Reagan years. This is a premiere issue, the very first issue of Moon Knight. It is in, let's see, some little spine ticks there, but not very many. It's in close to mint condition. The pages are very, very well preserved, and I'm glad to own it. No, I am not selling it. I'm probably going to get this CGC. CGC will be at the Michigan Comic Con this weekend, which I will be at as well. And I'm going to see if I can probably get this book CGC'd. So anyway, that's it. That's all, y'all. I just wanted to report some latest news, not gossip. News about some of our favorite comic book shows, specifically under the Marvel Disney helm, um, and what's going on and will be going on in the upcoming comic book TV shows. All right, so that's it. That's all, y'all. Again, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. I thank you to all my subscribers for your support. Everyone have a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time and place it is in the world that you are in. Peace, love, and hair grease.